in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
To say that we are closer to victory today is to believe, in the face of the evidence, the optimists who have been wrong in the past. To suggest we are on the edge of defeat is to yield to unreasonable pessimism. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only realistic, if unsatisfactory, conclusion. On the off chance the military and political analysts are right, in the next few months we must test the enemy's intentions in case this is indeed his last big gasp before negotiations. But it is increasingly clear to this report that the only rational way out then will be to negotiate, not as victors, but as honorable people who lived up to their pledge to defend democracy and did the best they could. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.
Walter Cronkite. His take on the Vietnam War. You know, just like the fake news. Drops over there for 20 minutes, comes home, thinks he knows everything. Well, on this Memorial Day, I'm privileged to talk to my father, Ray Kelly, the longest-serving police commissioner in New York history. First to serve non-consecutive terms under two different mayors, and also a Vietnam War veteran and a great dad. We had so many laughs growing up. Ray Kelly, Dad, how are you?
I'm good, great. Great to be with you on this Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. You know, I remember talking Memorial Day with you, and we were looking at a picture, I think, of your OCS class. This is when we were growing up in Baldwin, and you were like, just kind of matter-of-factly, well, that. I said, who's this guy? And said, he stepped on a mine. Who's this guy? Oh, he died some other way. You know a lot of people who died in Vietnam, don't you?
Yes, I do. And if anybody who was there would be in the same boat. It's just a lot of people lost their lives in Vietnam. 58,000 American troops, which is an incredible number. But that was the cost that was paid by, to a large extent, draftees in those days.
The draft, right. And, you know, it's interesting, though. You were there for a year, and I believe the 1966, and there were significant casualties in 1966. You get home, and I remember you saying you were a little bit surprised, or a lot surprised, because this war that had surrounded you every day for a year was barely in the news. I mean, it was in the news, but it was like page 20, right?
True, absolutely. I thought that it was the number one issue back in the United States. It certainly was not. And in those days, they would actually put casualty count, how many people who were killed in the past week, U.S. troops. And the numbers were sometimes incredible. Over 300 was a number that you would see. Not every week, of course, but it was very jolting to realize how many people lost their lives there for not very much.
How did it, what was it like for you? What was the experience like when you, if somebody asked you to sum it up? Hey, you were in Vietnam? Wow. What was that like? What was it like?
Well, it was tiring. It was demanding. When you're an officer, obviously, you have to be alert, aware, 24 hours. I learned an awful lot. And all in all, when I look back on it, it was a positive experience for me. And I think a lot of people would say that too, because they learned leadership. They learned how to get along with the troops. And it was invigorating sometimes.
It's interesting.
But, of course, it just wound down to being something that just, wasted lives for no legitimate reason.
It's fascinating though, and I know what you're talking about. It weirdly, war can be a positive experience. It's hell, true, but It's we have the profession of arms, and you were a professional. You were a professional. I have thought that, I think you tell me, please, but the stereotypical or the archetypal, Vietnam veteran and flashbacks and drug abuse and all that stuff, I've always felt that was overstated and mythologized a little bit. You and I actually haven't talked about that in a very long time. I can't remember talking. Do you buy that? Do you think did they come back with real problems, or has that been exaggerated by the news?
No, I think it's been exaggerated. I never saw any drug abuse in Vietnam. I never saw even marijuana. People talk like it was everywhere. It wasn't everywhere. I certainly didn't see it. Did some people come back with problems? Sure. In any war, that's going to happen. But by and large, people were proud that they served and that they, participated in the war. And you once wrote an editorial in the Times that says, in essence, that the soldiers, the Marines fight for the person next to them, not for some ephemeral reason. It's to do with what will my compatriots think of me, and what can I do? How did I comport myself? That was a very, very insightful piece that you did.
When you're taking on the tough jobs, gear up with Venom steel gloves and defend your hands from grime, grease, and muck. They're 70% thicker than common disposable gloves with heavy-duty 2-layer nitrile protection, including a black outer layer and a white inner layer that provides chemical and rip resistance. Great for all your painting, plumbing, automotive, and DIY projects.
Yeah, thank you.
You remember that, right?
I sure do. Published in the New York Times, Greg Kelly on the op-ed page. And I said, if, all politics is local, that's what they used to say. Well, so is morale, and it's kind of applicable to the civilian world. I mean, whatever your job is, let's say you're in sales. Let's say you sell dental supplies, right? And I know somebody who's a dental supply person, and they actually love their job. Now, are they that passionate about dental supplies? Maybe, maybe not. But this guy's passionate about his job and being number one every month. That's what drives him. And I think it's the same way. You're in the military, and the patriotic part sometimes is a little bit of an accessory. And I hate to, people are surprised. You join the military, of course. It's altruistic. But it's also, hey, this is interesting for me, and you have a reputation to uphold, and you got people on your left and your right, and it gets right down to it. You want to do well among your peers where you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's very interesting, though, very interesting. Did you feel that kind of pressure, peer pressure?
Oh, when you say you feel it, it's just exists. It's around. It's not a question of even thinking so much about it. I think things are done sort of automatically that you don't even realize. That has to do with what your peers think of you and see you in action.
We were talking about the combat deaths. They also happen in peacetime. A lot. People overlook this, or they happen during wartime, but in training back home. This is a report, and by the way, there are literally hundreds of reports like this, but this is one that I kind of picked out of the basket. 5 deaths in a helicopter crash, a Marine helicopter crash in California. And it's a dangerous line of work, whether you're in the Persian Gulf or you're in, Orange County, California. Go ahead, if you don't mind.
Marine Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego, where those 5 Marines were based. They were heading back here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning when their helicopter, CH-53E Super Stallion, crashed. Families and friends have been sharing support and tributes online, and we spoke to 23-year-old Sergeant Alec Lincoln's sister. Take a listen.
He died doing what he loved. I know that he didn't want to leave any of us, but that he's going to be there protecting us for the rest of our lives.
Elizabeth is Alec Lincoln's big sister. She says losing Alec leaves a void in their family no one can fill.
He's not going to be there for the monumental life things. He's not going to be there for the small day-to-day things like watching TV or in the group chat, like making funny jokes about our dad's head shape.
Captain Benjamin Moulton, Captain Jack Casey, Captain Miguel Nava, and Lance Corporal Donovan Davis died with Lincoln when their CH-53E went down overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. 28-year-old Captain Miguel Nava, pictured here, was born and raised in Michigan. His decorations include the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Sea Service Deployment Ribbon. 27-year-old Captain Benjamin Moulton from Idaho, pictured here, was awarded the National Defense Service Medal. Lizzie says Alec had just gotten married a month ago in Sedona, and one of the last times they'd shared together alone, Alec confided in his sister on his wedding day.
I wasn't nervous up until now, but I know that she's my forever, and she's my person, and I can't wait for her to be a Langan. We're a military family, and you hear of people dying all the time. We've had family friends that have passed. We've had friends that we've known who have committed suicide. We've seen it all. And you never expect that your fun-loving brother or son are going to be the ones.
The latest from the Marine Corps is that they are still working to recover the bodies of those 5 Marines from the rough, rugged terrain in Pine Valley. Also, the investigation continues into why their helicopter went down. Reporting for CBS 8, I'm Kirsten Holmes. Back to you.
It's domestic. It happened in California, and it happens all the time. It happens rather routinely, and you get used to it. And I don't think the American public knows about it. And that's okay, but, and we had a cousin who flew that very helicopter, right, Dad?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I read someplace that the military averages a death a day in training. Just as you said, people think that it's okay. Combat obviously dangerous, but training can be very dangerous as well. And it's a tough profession, tough business. It's unforgiving because all the services have very demanding training experiences, training exercises that put young soldiers, Marines at risk. But that's what's felt that has to be done to prepare them for war.
It does seem to me like the military is on much better footing now than it was under Joe Biden. I mean, some of the stuff that they got those generals to do and say, I thought was pretty astounding. And I think you've seen on my show over the years, and this happened under Republicans and Democrats, but general officers who would get up and say, everything's going fine in Iraq, everything's going fine in Afghanistan, especially Afghanistan, and it's interesting. The military is kind of can-do attitude, and you got to have a can-do attitude, and the mission must be accomplished no matter what. We take away resources, we're still going to get the mission done. And I feel like the military, it took a big hit, let's face it, during Vietnam, and I think it took another hit with Iraq and Afghanistan, and I think it's on its way back in a big way. How do you feel?
Well, we hear that the recruitment numbers are way up, and we know that they had great difficulty recruiting in the last administration. So that's a good sign because, of course, we have a volunteer force. We need people who voluntarily go into the military. We have, I think it's 1.3 million people in the military service now. That's a lot of folks. and that needs a steady stream of volunteers now. And apparently it's picked up again, and I think that's good news for the country.
Well, I'm glad that you served, because I wouldn't have served if you hadn't served. And people ask me, why'd you go in? And it was your example. And I remember somebody said, did he push you to join? I said, no, certainly not. You never did, but you certainly, you just led by example. And I think that's what you do. I asked you once, why did you pick the Marines? And you said, because they're the best. And I just thought, wow, that's.
Greg, I had all three of my older brothers who were in the Marine Corps. You obviously were in the Marine Corps. Your cousins, Mark and Brian Duffy, were in the Marine Corps. And, we had a lot of relatives, if you go back, that were in the Marine Corps, that were in World War II. So I think we can be justly proud of the contributions that the Kellys made protecting our country.
So true. Your oldest brother, Leonard, my Uncle Leonard, your second older brother, Ken, my Uncle Kenneth, and Donald, who died recently, your brother Donald, my Uncle Donald, all Marines, and you, of course, and Brian Duffy and Mark Duffy. And while I'm at it, my cousin Tim Clark on the other side joined the Navy, and he did a great job. He did a great job. He's done a great job, too, raising a great family out in San Francisco. Well, Ray Kelly, it's going to be a great summer, I feel like. One more thing. Do you remember, as fondly as I do, the summer of 1976? This is America 250, the 250th anniversary. The bicentennial in 1976 was a big, big, big deal, and the Kelly family was all in.
Yeah, we were in. It was a harbor. Basically, it has to do with the Brooklyn Bridge. No, that was '86. Yeah.
Operation Sail. That was
it. Yeah, and I think your mom was in the Coast Guard then, and she participated in that regard, in that status.
And she got us onto Governor's Island, I think.
That's right. Yeah, right.
Well, Ray Kelly, my dad, you say hi to Mom, and have a great Memorial Day.
Okay, you too, pal.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon. I'm very, very blessed. Very blessed. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?